Hello again. This is, I guess, part two of a tutorial, although I don't really know what I'm talking about. If you're doing um, local history research or family history research, you've seen an address in an old census and you want to find out where they lived, then you need some really good maps. Not just really good maps, you need the best maps. And of course, I'm talking about the Ordnance Survey maps because they go back through several decades in absolutely brilliant detail. And the best thing about them is that the older ones are out of copyright. So you can look at them and use them for free and do what you want with them pretty much. Unless the copyright police come along with their little tit helmet on, which they bought in a toy shop. Now, I should explain, I've been down the pub most of the day, and I shouldn't really be doing this, but I need to get it off. I need to put this to bed so that we can move on. Now, a lot of people have told me that they've tried to go on this website. It's called the National Library of Scotland, and it's not just about Scotland, it's about the whole of the UK. Wonderful resource material. But they say when they log into it, it's so complicated and they can't seem to find what they want. And it's true, it's not the easiest of places to navigate. But what I've done down below, click on the more, I think, word to find it. I've put some links in to the bread and butter of our area. So you don't have to go squabbling about in the main site. You can do, when you get used to it a bit, and you can probably find where you're going, but it is difficult. So here we are with a 1950s map, I think. Yeah, it's 1950s. Now, the wonderful thing about this is that it comes with door numbers. So if your ancestors lived at 22 Winifred Street, there it is. So far, so interesting, you say, but it also comes with a lot more information. Churches, schools, gaps. When I first looked at this map, I realised that it shows something quite interesting, and that is, see where the houses have been cleared, the buildings have been cleared. It's virtually a straight line. Now, you work it out, don't you? You think, well, why is it all in a straight line? Well, that's a bomber. That's a bombing run. One fucking bomber, right? One German bomber did all that damage after the incendiaries had fell. Of course, I mean, here and there were like parachute bombs and incendiary bombs and all that kind of thing. So this one will be, I would say, the most interesting to people in our group, because our group tends to be mainly populated by people over 50. I'd love to have some youngsters come in. I'd love to have some newcomers to the area come in that have moved in within the last 5-10 years. I realise that you're probably completely obsessed with being able to pay the rent or your mortgage. You ain't got time to look at old things, what used to be there. But there'll come a time when you want. So great detail. Lavatory, bowling green, old swimming pool. Why is it fuzzy? There you go. Swimming pool. I never knew there was an old bandstand up there. So you can look at these things for a long time. and depending on your interest level, you'll get as much out of it as you want to. So to change eras, click this one here. Probably can't see it because my mug is probably in the way. Let me move it. I'll move myself. Down here, you've got a drop down box and you can select different eras. Doesn't always work. But here's a great one. I think this is quite recent because I haven't seen this one before, and it's really interesting. It's really interesting. 1848 to 1851. Now that's a long time ago, right? I mean, Woolwich Manor Way's in there. It's even got the dog leg at the Fernhill, which doesn't exist. Fernhill, Ferndale. Have you noticed everyone does that? You've got North Woolwich Station, and you've got Creek, which was a natural inlet in the Thames. There was somebody online, of course, who said that Ham Creek was a Roman port. It went back as far as Roman times, and what the Romans did, he said, was they made all these canals across the marsh so they could transport their people and goods. Well, for a start, these canals were actually drainage ditches. So he's talking out of his hat. But I mean, Ham Creek is an interesting subject, probably worth a video of its own. And here we get to some very ancient old lanes that went across the marsh. Now, the absolutely best thing about this software, which is free, of course it's free, is that it uses an overlay of what's there now. So this 50 acres lane, an ancient lane, you can imagine lots of shepherds walking up and down, loads of sheep and cattle being herded from one field to another. Prince Regent's Lane. Anyway, 50 Acres Lane was, we find out, in the middle of Silvertown. Now this is the DLR line as it goes round to the city airport. This is the blocks of flats in Drew Road and Camel Road. And you've got this ancient lane. Now it leads to around the back of the Drew Road flats, which used to be well, it still is, but it used to be a very sparse paving slab playground. Little did we know that all these ancient people were walking up and down it. And it goes across this warehouse, and it goes across the Travel Lodge. I think I'm right in saying that, although that looks like the Travel Lodge to me. I should do my research, but you know. And 50 Acre Lane led, twisted round, went north. And if you follow it up, you end up with 40 Acre Lane. Went up through the docks, up Prince Regent's Lane, which became Prince Regent Lane, and then joined up with Barking Road. Sorry if I'm scrolling too fast. I know it can give people a headache. And there was another one. That's it. Dirty Lane. An old ancient lane which came off of Pulley Wall. I've got no idea what that means, but a little bit of research. New Barn Street, Pulley Wall, Dirty Lane actually became Freemasons Road. and it went all the way down across the marsh, all the way down to West Silvertown. There's the D silo there. Dirty Lane joined up to North Woolwich Road, which was just a beaten track as well. So the significance of this, Dirty Lane and Freemasons Road, what's the connection? Dirty Freemasons. So now that we're all really excited to see where all the cows and sheep used to be herded up and down, there's another interesting thing as well. The Woolwich Ferry obviously has been going for a lot longer than we know, and they used to bring cattle over on the Woolwich Ferry, which was little more than a barge house. A barge. Getting ahead of myself. A barge, and they used to take them from Woolwich to North Woolwich by this horse-drawn barge, and they used to store the cattle round the back of the Albion pub in a sort of like a big yard that stank of cow shit, of course. That's why the Albion became locally known as the cowshed. If you're ever in a pub quiz and you need to know that, now you know the answer. So let's go to another era. They don't always work. Well, they're sometimes different. Now this is from 1894. And you can see Silvertown is pretty much built up. It does throw up an interesting situation. Bailey Street and Wilton Street. Now, you may not have heard of these two streets, but they were north of Tate Road, junction of Newland Street and Tate Road. Had a whole new development building up. Now, of course, this was cleared because they were going to build the George V dock, and of course they compulsorily purchased anything. I've seen a couple of photos of some of these houses, and they look really nice, really well built houses. This was the original St Mary and St Edward's School that was north of Newland Street, but it all went. Now, Drew Road was going to be the main thoroughfare, although in fact it was called Bailey Street as well. Got the likes of Kennard Street, Rhea Street, Winifred and Auberon were going to be a hell of a lot longer than they eventually turned out to be, because Newland Street became the new boundary and it truncated it there. But you look at old maps and you find out these things. There's no other way to find out. It's not written down anywhere. You've got to do your own research. North Woolwich is quite well built up, of course, at this stage. Lots to talk about, but got to get on, really. I mean, Victoria Street used to be between Henley Road and Store Road. That was for the workers at the Victoria Ale stores. All long gone, all forgotten. But if you look at these old maps, you can recreate the history. Lots of different maps to choose from, but some of them are shit, like that. Not much detail. I mean, it looks nice. Looks lovely, doesn't it? But you're not really getting any information. Yeah, we're back in 1940s, 1950s. Now, there's another really interesting tool in this software, this website, and that's the ability to lay down a marker. Now, my ancestors, fourth generation family who came over from Ireland, they lived at 31 Andrew Street, and then they moved to 30 Andrew Street, which was here. And I always wanted to know where that exact house was. So if you add a marker to 30, You can then, of course, bring in the overlay, and it shows you where that was. Now, how many times did I walk from my house, past the flats, into Drew Road, and then cut into this pedestrian area that used to be protected by a barrier? There was a phone box there, and there was a barrier. And during Wimbledon, all the kids used to get their tennis rackets out the cupboard, and they used to play tennis over this barrier because it was the right sort of size for a net. But anyway, I digress. This was the pedestrian way to Delamere shops, the chip shop, the laundrette, the butchers, all the interesting things. Now, forgive me for becoming a little bit whimsical, right? But how many times did I walk across this patch of ground, which was just a few paving slabs at that point, and I was literally walking through my ancestor's house? Wouldn't it have been nice to, like, every time I walked past there was like a little tingle on the back of my neck, and I didn't really know why. It's because I was walking through what used to be my family's lives, their emotions, their experiences, whatever used to happen in that kind of working class, uh, borderline poverty kind of existence. And I never knew. But thanks to technology, and we can do these things today, we can find these things out. And I was blown away when I discovered this. Oh, it was there. My great great grandfather used to live there. Brilliant. Now, I should also mention that, of course, you can buy these OS maps from that place that begins with A, the people that don't like to pay tax. Exhibit A, don't know if you can see that in this light. They're about £3-4 each, and they're exactly the same as these ones. But, if you're going to use these things in your own projects, you're going to need to get that map into your computer. We'll just cut out the middleman and just go on this website, and you've got all the OS maps from all over the country. Sky's the limit, really. Look at this one from. So this is one of the individual maps that you can look at, as well as the connected, joined up infinite ones, if you like. And this is surveyed in 1867. So you're going back a good old way, aren't you? Shows the long lost Winchester Street and Twyford Streets that used to be connected to Silver's works, exclusively for Silver's workers. So you couldn't pull a sickie. And then, of course, you've got St Mark's Church here with the parsonage, which you won't remember because, well, it was bombed in the war. So, thanks very much for that. So the first streets that were made in Silvertown, the station was built to support Silver's works eventually. Got the first streets, Grey Street, Andrew Street and Constant Street, the Drew Road thoroughfare. This always intrigued me because these houses look smaller than all the others. So they could have started off as stables for all the horses and then turned into houses later on. Constant Street was always the main drag of the shopping centre, the shops. But this map again throws up a very curious situation. So you've got Constant Street here. This was the Railway Hotel, or the Railway, or Cundy's, whatever you want to call it, there. But the usually very accurate Ordnance Survey have got a public house listed in the wrong place. Now this, of course, this building here would recognise it as Angela Lewington. This used to be called Marshes on the corner, which was a general store. Buy your furniture, buy your plimsolls. It was taken over by Leadbeaters, and then originally it was a post office. public house. So maybe the Ordnance Survey made a mistake, or there's a mystery to be solved here. Maybe the original public house was there, and then it moved to there. Get your thinking caps on, get your glasses on, start looking. Drinking fountain. How about that? So yeah, these individual sheets are brilliant because there's a lot of like atmosphere and age to them, but you're much better off with the connected map series. What can I say? So there you go. Please investigate this website because you will find out so much about your past, your family's past, if you, of course, you come from this area. So many things to discover. Now, I would like to tell you that I've had a dog licking my right knee for the past 2 minutes, but I valiantly carried on to produce this fantastic video.
If you found this video informative and interesting, please click the like button so we know you're watching. If you're not already a member, do join us on the Silvertown and North Woolwich Past and Present Facebook group. We have literally thousands of vintage and modern photos of shops, houses, pubs, factories, structures and people, accurate local history information and lots of active chat.